I'm going to call our meeting to order. This is our regular meeting of the Board of Supervisors for Tuesday, July 7th, 2026. Welcome and thank you for being here this morning. And we're going to start out, we have 2 moments of silence this morning. The first one is for William Feeney. William Feeney passed away peacefully on June 22nd in Lakeport at almost 94 years old. William was born and grew up in North Dakota. After obtaining his bachelor's and master's degrees and attending a year of medical school, he worked numerous jobs before obtaining a teaching credential and becoming a high school principal. In the early 1960s, he moved his family to Esparto in Yolo County, where he was a high school math and science teacher. Between 1972 and 76, he went back to school and obtained his Juris Doctorate degree and became an attorney. In 1977, William moved his family to Lakeport, California, where he practiced law for almost 30 years. First in partnership with Peter Windrum and Rick Williams in an office on Forbes Street in Lakeport, later purchasing a building on Main Street where he practiced in partnership with his nephew, Michael Lunas, and eventually his daughter, Susan Feeney. The next moment of silence is for Destiny Marie Jones. And this morning I want to offer a moment of silence for Destiny. She was 28 years old. She lived in Lakeport, California. On June 17 of this year, she lost her life as a result of a vehicle accident on Highway 29 in Lakeport. Her 3 children, Bryson 8, Rylan 5, and Kenzie 4, were also in the vehicle and sustained injuries, but fortunately they survived. Destiny grew up in Lakeport and attended local schools. Later in life, she lived in Clear Lake for a time before moving back to Lakeport near her family. Destiny was raising her children alone with help from family. Bryson, Rylan, and Kenzie are now living with their grandparents, Misty and Casey Faust, in Lakeport. And I want to recognize that all of the children and Misty and Casey are here with us this morning. And Destiny's life was focused on caring for her children, and she loved them with all her heart. Thank you. I'm going to ask everybody to remain standing, and I'm going to introduce Vince Taylor, who's a veteran of the United States Army. He's going to come forward to the mic and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, for liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, and you may be seated at this time. Thank you, Mr. Taylor. And at this time, we're going to have a special addition to our meeting this morning in recognition of the 250th anniversary of our country. And that's going to be a reading of the pledge or the Declaration of Independence by members of our community. And at this time, I want to thank Vice Chair Peiska for bringing this idea forward. And I'm going to turn it over to her to make some comments.
Thank you. And I want to thank Chair Rasmussen for organizing our speakers. This has been such a wonderful time for us all to celebrate as Americans. I think everyone really celebrated over the weekend in ways that maybe we haven't before. But just a little history reminder, July 2nd, 1776 was the day that the Continental Congress declared freedom from Britain. And that was the day that John Adams thought everyone would be celebrating for generations. On July 4th, is when the Declaration of Independence was adopted. And then it was sent off to the printers to be printed. And then on July 8th, it was read publicly for the first time in several locations at noon. And John Nixon read it out loud in Philadelphia at Independence Hall. So I think it's really fitting that we do that here today to celebrate our 250th.
Thank you. And at this time, I'll introduce and call up our readers. Reader number one is Tom Lincoln, and he is a longtime resident business owner in Lakeport. And our reader number two is Kathy Windrum. She's a longtime resident and involved in many community activities, and she lives in the Kelseyville area. And our reader number three is London Murray. She just graduated this past month from Kelseyville High School, and she has enlisted in the United States Navy, and on July 15th will be entering the Navy. So at this time, I will call Tom, Kathy, and London forward to go ahead and start the reading of the Declaration of Independence.
Good morning, everyone. At this time, we'll present a reading of the Declaration of Independence, adopted by the Second Continental Congress on July 4, 1776. In Congress, July 4, 1776, the unanimous declaration of the 13 United States of America. When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them. A decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive to these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence indeed will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes, and, accordingly, all experience hath shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer, while evils are sufferable, than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty, to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. Such has been the patient sufferance of these colonies, and such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter their former systems of government. The history of the present King of Great Britain is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations, all having in direct object the establishment of an absolute tyranny over these states. To prove this, let facts be submitted to a candid world. He has refused his assent to laws, the most wholesome and necessary for the public good. He has forbidden his governors to pass laws of immediate and pressing importance, unless suspended in their operation until his assent should be obtained, and when so suspended, he has utterly neglected to attend to them. He has refused to pass other laws for the accommodation of large districts of people, unless those people would relinquish the right of representation in the legislature. a right inestimable to them and formidable to tyrants only. He has called together legislative bodies at places unusual, uncomfortable, and distant from the depository of their public records for the sole purpose of fatiguing them into compliance with his measures. He has dissolved representative houses repeatedly for opposing with manly firmness his invasions on the rights of the people. He has refused for a long time after such dissolutions to cause others to be elected, whereby the legislative powers, incapable of annihilation, have returned to the people at large for their exercise, the state remaining in the meantime exposed to all the dangers of invasion from without and convulsions within.
He has endeavored to prevent the population of these states, for that purpose obstructing the laws for naturalization of foreigners, refusing to pass others to encourage their migrations hither, and raising the conditions of new appropriations of lands. He has obstructed the administration of justice by refusing his assent to laws for establishing judiciary powers. He has made judges dependent on his will alone for the tenure of their offices and the amount and payment of their salaries. He has erected a multitude of new offices and sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people and eat out their substance. He has kept among us in times of peace standing armies without consent of our legislatures. He has affected to render the military independent of and superior to the civil power. He has combined with others to subject us to a jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution and unacknowledged by our laws, giving his assent to their acts of pretended legislation. For quartering large bodies of armed troops among us, for protecting them by a mock trial from punishment for any murders which they should commit on the inhabitants of these states, for cutting off our trade with all parts of the world, for imposing taxes on us without our consent, for depriving us in many cases of the benefits of trial by jury, for transporting us beyond seas to be tried for pretended offenses, for abolishing the free system of English laws in a neighboring province, establishing therein an arbitrary government and enlarging its boundaries, so as to render it at once an example and fit instrument for introducing the same absolute rule into these colonies, for taking away our charters, abolishing our most valuable laws, and altering fundamentally the forms of our governments, for suspending our own legislatures and declaring themselves invested with power to legislate for us in all cases whatsoever. He has abdicated government here by declaring us out of his protection and waging war against us. He has plundered our seas, ravaged our coasts, burned our towns, and destroyed the lives of our people. He is at this time transporting large armies of foreign mercenaries to complete the works of death of our frontiers, the merciless Indian savages, whose known rule of warfare is an undistinguished destruction of all ages, sexes, and conditions. In every stage of these oppressions, we have petitioned for redress in the most humble terms. Our repeated petitions have been answered only by repeated injury. A prince whose character is thus marked by every act which may define a tyrant is unfit to be the ruler of a free people.
Nor have we been wanting in attentions to our British brethren. We have warned them from time to time of attempts by their legislator to extend an unwarrantable jurisdiction over us. We have reminded them of the circumstances of our emigration and settlement here. We have appealed to their narrative justice and magnanimity. We have conjured them by the ties of our common kindred to disavow these usurpations, which would inevitably interrupt our connections and correspondence. They too have been deaf to the voice of justice and of consanguinity. We must therefore acquiesce in the necessity which denounces our separation and hold them as we hold the rest of mankind, enemies in war, in peace, friends. We therefore, the representatives of the United States of America, in General Congress assembled, appealing to the Supreme Judge of the world for the rectitude of our intentions, do, in the name and by the authority of the good people of these colonies, solemnly publish and declare that these united colonies are and of right ought to be free and independent states, that they are absolved from all allegiance to the British Crown, and that all political connection between them and the state of Great Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved, and that as free and independent states they have full power to levy war, conclude peace, contract alliances, establish commerce, and to do all other acts and things which independent states may of right do. And for the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortune, and our sacred honor. Thank you.
What's that? Yeah. Can we get the readers and Mr. Taylor up here with the board for a quick photograph? Okay. And I know we have some hands up apparently in Zoom. This is not an item that we were going to take public comment. However, if somebody was wanting to make a comment of it, I can allow that during the public comment session. So if you had your hand up to comment on the declaration, we will get to you when we do public comment. And at this time, I need to find out, is there any extra items not appearing on the agenda?
There is not, Chair.
Okay. Then I'll move to approval of the consent agenda. Does administration have any items that they're requesting to be pulled, or the board members?
5.12, is that correct?
5.12? Anything else?
And 5.10,
Okay.
please.
And checking with Supervisor Owen?
Yeah, I just was able to get it to move. It was stuck. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Then we'll be ready for action.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the consent agenda with the exceptions of 5.10 and 5.12.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, that carries 4-0. Next, we'll move on to our timed items, and the first one will be public input, and I'll go ahead and start with the online room. Eve, if you could state your name and you'll have 3 minutes.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, this is Maya Lynn. I'm not calling from East. I'm just I don't even calling from another phone. So I would like to say that we received. My name is Maya Lynn. I'm speaking for Sterling Shores Mobile Home Parks and a lot of mobile home parks where people don't even don't know what to do anymore with what's happening with our rent increases. For 8 long months, all of us have been filling the chamber and your emails and sharing our stories, our budgets, and begging the board for help. And we know you're working on it, but for 8 long months, we're still waiting. We've received yet another rent increase. As you know, that everybody lives on fixed incomes, and these seniors, most of them. And when rent spikes by hundreds of dollars, which ours has done about $200 in the last couple of years, it doesn't just mean cutting back. It means choosing between medication, groceries, keeping a roof over their head, asking their children, their adult 50, 60-year-old children, to help them out so that they can keep living. We know you're working on it, but I just want you to know we've received another rent increase. And their little paragraph that we would like to take this opportunity to thank you for your residency. We know you have many choices to call home. Like we can right now pick up our home and move because we're not happy there because they have raised our rent in the past 4 or 5 years. It's been 4%, 5%, 6%, 6%, and $60 a month now for the next 10 years, which we've all been paying since March. They're making us pay for postage. They're making us pay for their portal. And now we have another 90-day notice for another 2.0% increase. And I'm sure it's only this low because of everything that we have been trying to stop them from doing. So I ask you, Board of Supervisors, especially the ad hoc committee, Bruno and EJ, please use the lawyers. Please get everything in alignment, and please make this retroactive and help the people in your community to keep their homes. Thank you.
Thank you. iPhone user, if you could identify yourself and you'll have 3 minutes.
Sky Laywell, Pillsbury Family Farms. Today, this board began its meeting by reading the Declaration of Independence in honor of America's 250th anniversary. And as a Native American, I couldn't help but think about the one line that was just read. Merciless Indian savages. Those weren't words that were written on an old paper. Those were words that were written about my ancestors. My 5th great-grandfather, Broken Horn Bull, was a respected Hunkapapa Lakota headman and was advisor to Sitting Bull later before becoming known as Chief Running Antelope. My great-grandfather was persecuted for practicing his religion and speaking Lakota. My grandfather had his hair cut in boarding school because the government believed that Native American children needed to abandon their identity to become acceptable. My bloodline is connected to America's history, and not just the parts that are celebrated in textbooks or in meetings, but the parts that Native Americans family carry through generations. And as I reviewed today's meeting packet, I also noticed something that was symbolic. On page 6 of the Declaration of Independence PDF, under additional comment states signed on August 2nd, 2026. It is a simple typo, but it reminds us that history matters, details matter. If you are going to honor the nation's founding document, you should also honor its accuracy. When people ask why I come every Tuesday and speak with passion, this is why. I come because I believe that our government should always be held accountable to the people it serves. And as a Native American cannabis farmer, I've experienced decisions that have left me questioning whether this government has truly learned from its past. When departments mishandle sensitive information, when citizens struggle for due process, and when oversight feels absent, it reminds me why accountability matters. The Declaration of Independence wasn't only about breaking away from a king. It declared that governments derive their just powers from the consent of the governed. That principle means that government exists to serve the people and not the other way around. If you are going to have that declaration read, remember all of it. Remember its ideals and its contradiction. Honor its promise by making sure every person who comes before this board is treated with fairness, accountability, and respect. because freedom isn't preserved by reading historic words once a year. It is preserved by having the courage to hold our own government accountable every day. Mulaham.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else? Sterling, go ahead. You'll have 3 minutes.
Yes, good morning. I recently read an article reporting that Bill Gates-backed hydrogen developer has spent the past year exploring for natural occurring hydrogen in Lake County. According to the article, roadside surveys have been completed. Work has continued on private property. Members of this board were briefed outside of public meeting, and the survey results have not been publicly released. If this is the future of energy development in our county, then the public deserves to know about it before, not after, decisions are being decided. I also want to acknowledge that the hydrogen developers held public open house in Lakeport to answer questions from residents, and I appreciate the efforts, but they've been here for a year. But my question is not for the developers, my question is for the county. Why wasn't there a public decision by this board? Why wasn't there a public presentation explaining what the county knew, what was being explored, and what it could mean for Lake County? The people of Lake County should not have to learn about major energy exploration from a newspaper article. This is exactly why I have been asking for a comprehensive energy policy. We've seen proposals for wind development at Walker Ridge. We've seen EGX's geothermal proposal. We've seen Flash's projects. We've seen decisions about data centers, and now we're seeing natural hydrogen exploration. There are not separate conversations. They all point to the same reality. Lake County continues to attract interest for major energy development. Just recently, a proposed data center in Calistoga was denied. For residents raised concern about its impacts. Reports indicate some residents suggest projects like that could instead come to Lake County. Whether that happens or not, we need to be ready. Without a comprehensive energy policy, Lake County is left reacting to one proposal after another instead of deciding in advance what our community will support, what protections will be required, and what standards every developer must meet. I've heard the creating an energy policy is too expensive or that there's not enough funding. Yet over the past several years, this board has approved millions of dollars in employee compensation increases. If we can invest millions there, surely we can invest in a policy to protect our waters, environment, tribal resources, and agricultural lands, our residents, and the future generations. Isn't that one of the board's most important responsibilities? I respectfully ask the board to improve transparency, keep the public informed before, not after, major energy projects advance, and make completion of a comprehensive energy policy. So thank you for your time, and if I have any time left, I would like to have a moment of silence for all those poor animals that were killed at the Moran Ranch. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have another? What was the name? Alex. If you could
Yes,
identify
hi. Good
yourself,
morning,
you have 3 minutes. Go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Alexander Powell, and I am one of the managing caretakers at the Mountain Retention Sanctuary, a 1,000-acre meditation retreat sanctuary up in the beautiful forest near Loch Lomond, not far from Cobb Mountain. And I just wanted to let the supervisors know that we recently determined that the Mediterranean oak borer beetle has fully infested our forest. And I kind of mainly just wanted to make you aware of this. We face a difficult road ahead to help support the health of our trees, the valley oaks, and to remove and destroy infested trees and to keep the infestation from spreading more easily. So I just wanted to make sure that you know of this happening in a higher altitude, which was uncertain that they would continue going this high, and they are there fully. And I hope that you will do whatever you can to help protect our beautiful forest and from the stressful conditions of drought that also encourage the beetle and also obviously create dangerous conditions for wildfire. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you for your time and service.
Thank you for the comments. Was that it online? Okay. I'll move to in the room. Do we have anybody in the room that wishes to make public comment?
Is this on? Oh, there we go. Good morning. My name is Marie Schrader, and I'm here to report back on the program that I presented to you in early June called Simple Gesture. I just wanted you to know the impact of what that did. I've done some donor drives out there, and I actually had people say, "Is this the program that like Supervisor Rasmussen is doing?" And they sign up because the leadership makes all the difference. So at the time that I was here last, we had in the county 242 donors. Today, we have 319. We have been really progressing. Out of the 5 chapters, 4 of them have over 50 donors. One of them does not. That is the Middletown, Hidden Valley and Cobb area, and I'm going to be doing a donor drive up there this Friday at the Middletown Market to see if we can get that one up to at least 50 donors. That is my goal for them. We're going to be seeing, I mean, the chapter here in Lakeport went to 108 donors, which is absolutely wonderful. So your leadership, your continued support of the program, your posting about the program makes all the difference to us to be able to have legitimacy in this program so that we can continue to help the citizens of Lake County who are suffering from food insecurity. So thank you, and I encourage you. I know that we have a couple of you that are going on ride-alongs this Saturday, so thank you for that. And I encourage the others to, contact me so that we can get you to go ride along with our drivers when they go to pick this up so that you can see this program firsthand. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you, Marie. That's good news. Next in the room.
Good morning, Board of Supervisors. My name is Roberta McIntyre. I reside in Hidden Valley Lake. Thank you. I just want to do a couple thank yous real quick, and I just added one to make 3 thank yous. Marie does an amazing job. Thank you, Marie, for all the hard work you're doing all over the county. The work you're doing is not unnoticed. I also want to thank Maria over at the Registrar of Voters. She's doing an amazing job. She's been under a lot of pressure with the vote count, et cetera. While the County of Lake has historically been pretty slow in returning our counts with the rest of the counties, I believe it's because she takes a very slow, methodical way of getting the votes counted in, rather slow but sure than quick and dangerous. And then I do want to, of course, thank the Board of Supervisors. I do have a bit of a gripe, though. A while back, I was seeking out some information regarding one of the municipal advisory councils, and finding information about it was very difficult. I had to actually resort to filing a California Records Act request to get the information. And if you go to the website and look at the various municipal advisory councils, how they're set up on the website, looks like a pretty good template. But what is missing on the website is their original board resolution, I believe should be on there, of when they were actually established, whenever that was. I believe that their current bylaws should be on there, so folks in the general public should be able to go and read what their bylaws actually say for the various MACs. I know they're not all under one set of bylaws. I come to understand that each one has its own set of bylaws. The board members and their terms, I believe, would be helpful if those were on there as well. And at least quarterly minutes. Some of the MACs are pretty good about putting their minutes up there. A couple of them, more than a couple, I think, haven't posted any minutes since the beginning of this year. So that would be helpful as well. So thank you for the time, and thank you for your consideration of this matter. I'd appreciate it if we got that repaired.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else in the room for public comment? Yes.
Good morning, Chair Rasmussen and Supervisors. Margot Kambara. On July 3rd, excuse me, the Mendocino Voice described energy developers' interest in Lake County. One developer, Fremantle Lake California LLC, identified in the article, plans to apply to the state for a permit to drill in Lake County. This seems to bypass a county's permitting authority. The article underscores the need for the county to develop a comprehensive energy policy. The energy policy needs to define revenue participation, safety standards, and infrastructure protections regardless of permitting pathway. Otherwise, the county is left without enforceable standards, protections, and business agreements. Energy developers are here, and more are coming. The county needs a rubric to effectively evaluate energy development projects proposed by energy developers. Now is the time for a comprehensive county energy policy, whether it's included in the general plan or not. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else in the room? Not seeing any. I'm going to go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going to make a public comment on the Declaration of Independence. Skyla kind of beat me to it, but I think that, number one, we can't change what has already existed for over 250 years, but we should at least acknowledge what is in there that may be now in today's standards be deemed inappropriate language to use. And I think that it's okay to know and learn and have history, but it's also okay to make sure that we add commentary about the changes that have existed and that is found in there. And I think that the lack of a commentary, it's a learning moment. It's not a bad thing. It's a learning moment that I think that I hope that we can learn from and do better next time. Appreciate that we read that document today. And I know that I appreciated the celebrations that were throughout the entire county that occurred over the weekend. And I just want to advise everybody, the Declaration of Independence is a good read to understand your history and where we came from. But I would like to suggest, please read Thomas Paine, Common Sense. Have an understanding of the dangers of idolizing somebody or something, because I think we're all falling into that trap. And you should be questioning us. You should be asking questions. Because as soon as we stop doing those things, then we're being passive and allowing things to happen. And I think that sometimes we fall into a group or fall into a pathway that we stop asking questions and we stop questioning why things are the way they are or why we are doing what we're doing. And from the people's perspective, those questions should never stop. And it is our job to respond to those questions. And I think that, in my opinion, is part of our divisiveness that we fall in today, is we want so much to idolize who we are a part of rather than question and ensure that tomorrow will be better. And so please read Thomas Paine. It's a powerful read. It may have some inappropriate language in the sense of today's standard, but it is absolutely still relevant today in what we should learn from and what we should aspire to be.
Thank you. And I believe there was nobody else in the room, so I'll go ahead and close public comment. And we're going to move on to Pet of the Week. Did we have a Pet of the Week? I'm not seeing him.
I have been unable to confirm.
Okay. So we'll go ahead and pass that and move on to our 6.3, 915 item. This is consideration of A, presentation and discussion of draft co-management of the Clear Lake Watershed Global Agreement. B, provide feedback to staff on amending, and if no material amendments, C, authorize Susan Parker, County Administrative Officer, to sign. And we have our Deputy CAO Tribal Liaison here to present this item, to introduce this item.
Good morning. Terry Logston, Chief Climate Resiliency Officer and Tribal Liaison, and it is my honor, Board, this morning to come before you to bring the draft co-management of the Clear Lake Watershed Global Agreement. So as background, In September of 2024, Governor Gavin Newsom signed AB 1284 from Ramos, encouraging the CNRA, or California Natural Resources Agency, to enter into co-governance and co-management agreements with federally recognized tribes to manage state lands and waters, authorizing CNRA as a state signatory for this purpose. The Tribal Co-Governance and Co-Management of Ancestral Lands and Waters Act requires CNRA to sign agreements for co-management with tribal nations. And so the local tribes and here in Lake County and representatives from both cities and the county and most all of the CNRA departments, which are listed in the agreement, attended a meeting, and then the tribes had a separate meeting, and then we all came together to talk about it. And so through that, you have a draft. Now, I've handed out a copy because the agenda that was posted online did not include the section for, well, in the appendix where it has each of the signatories. It didn't include Big Valley, so I'm going to show that on screen, and I gave each, and there's a couple extras up front, but they are a part of the agreement. They just we didn't get it in time for the posting of our agenda.
Is the highlighted material in there changes from what was already posted as well, or was that already changed in what was posted?
No, it was not changed in what was posted. That's why I'm here to show it. I have some very little minor changes. Apparently, a global change, Lake County to County of Lake, which worked in some areas but didn't work in all areas. So let me share the document. Okay. And so you'll see what I just mentioned. They did a global change, and it's not the County of Lake Watershed Protection District, but the Lake County Watershed Protection District.
But it looks like it's changed to the County of Lake. It looks
Yeah,
like
I just highlighted
Okay.
it that way. And on the next page, page 2, you'll see I changed my method and did a cross out. So County of Lake is gone, and Lake County organizations. Where the County of Lake appointed representative, but they were Lake County organizations. And it's Lake County's economy, it's not the County of Lake's economy. And so this agreement came because of the legislation. It requires CNRA to work with federally recognized tribes in areas for the co-management of land and waters. And so it makes sense for the Watershed Protection District, which will be the next item when your board sits as the board of the Watershed Protection District, to include the county, the Watershed Protection District, and both cities, because all of the governments here receive funding and or collaborative agreements to work on projects in the Clear Lake watershed. And so that is what is before you today is consideration of approving it. The signing ceremony is currently scheduled somewhere here in Lake County on September 11th. We don't have the dates or location for that yet. Does anyone have any questions?
Questions from board members? Go ahead, Supervisor.
Yeah, I appreciate the final document coming to us after we had approved moving forward with this. To me, there is one glaring, obvious omission, and that is the Yolo County Flood Control. They have much of the water rights above Zero Rumsey. They have control over the dam. They have filed complaints with us regularly about lack of enforcement on streams from water being taken out of streams and it not going into the lake. Therefore, they miss out on water. They've complained about algae. I don't see them in there, and I think we need to hold the fire to their feet that they need to be a part of the solution and not a separate entity that is not a part of what this is. Because I see this as being all hands on deck, everybody involved that has a stake in making a better lake for all of us. And them not being there just makes them feel like the owner that doesn't care. So I think that I don't mind moving forward today. I don't want it to stall because of that, but I would like to see Yolo County Flood Control absolutely be a part of this as soon as possible, because they have skin in the game and they need to start showing it.
I hear you. Thank you for that feedback. I was thinking back to those initial meetings, and I recall that Yolo County Flood Control District was brought up. I think that, and I'm not 100% sure, but the reasoning behind not bringing them in at this point was to, one, they're a special district instead of a local government or a state government, but they're a special district of the state of California, which is considered a local government. But is to already have this signed would give a lot more leverage to get them to the table. And I will absolutely pass that information on to all the tribes, as well as Deputy Secretary Geneva Thompson, who is with Tribal Affairs under CNRA. Good point, thank you.
And I guess my last comment, more of a comment than a question, because I think I know the answer. It's just to kind of rhetorical, just to put it out there. We are, Lake County Watershed Protection District is still the responsible party for the lake. Final decisions on full major changes, at least, would come through us. This is trying to break the silos. This is trying to build relationships. This is trying to be a more robust body that can help our lake in a much greater approach, I guess, is the best term that I can say. You're saying yes, so I just wanted to make that statement just so that it's heard.
Yes, thank you.
Any other questions for board members?
Yes.
Go ahead, Supervisor Hahn.
Okay. I want to know what, excuse me. I'd like to know what I worry about is creating more bureaucracy, and if we're giving up any rights. Back 100 years ago, where we gave up our water rights, is there any, are we relinquishing any rights? Is there going to be any negative effect to our residents, to our people, giving up rights, some rights to a resource, one of our county resources? And also, what will be the contributions? How will we, how would this benefit the people of Lake County?
Great questions. First and foremost, this is a non-binding agreement, and so any of the parties can enter or can be in the agreement or leave the agreement. It has no authority to require any.
Then why are we doing it if there's?
Well, because of the legislation, CNRA is required to do this with federally recognized tribes, and so because the Watershed Protection District and the County of Lake and both of the cities partner on projects with the CNR agencies, the discussion was for the county and everybody else to sign on. Instead of increasing bureaucracy, this will actually help reduce it, because it's going to require the state agencies to better communicate with the tribes and the county, all parties, to develop projects and to make sure. It's a term that I use in the work that I do a lot, is to collaborate rather than compete. Let's figure out who would be the best entity to be the lead, who will be able to partner, who should be a part of this. And so it will help in the conversations of funding for the large-scale projects. It will not take away any rights from anyone, because it's just a commitment to work together for the betterment of the Clear Lake watershed. Because too many times we're competing for the same pot of money. Different, whether it's CNRA is getting federal dollars, one of their agencies, and maybe the tribes are going after that same pot of money for the same type of project. Also a part of this agreement is the Clear Lake Clear Lake Hitch Task Force Charter, which is Appendix 2, which is something that has been going on for many years, led by the tribes to get the state to take the issues that Clear Lake has more seriously. And so, and to protect, of course, the Clear Lake Hitch, which is a very culturally important fish to our local tribes. Either it's called chai or sati in Lake Miwok. And that's part of it as an appendix.
I still have reservations in the essence that, for instance, with the hitch, the Clear Lake Hitch, I know I went to some of those early meetings and at Silveries and such, and we ended up dipping into what I felt, and I know that some of the people felt, the right to monitor other, people's wells, private wells and such. So I think that there are other repercussions, and I'm just worried about repercussions that are not foreseen at this moment. And I'm worried about giving away any authority, as in when we gave away our water rights. So that was, of course, looking back, that was really stupid, So I still have reservations.
I hear your reservations. I do not think that the county would even consider looking at this if it was giving away any rights or if it would impact any rights. This is just a mechanism for better dialogue and continued working together.
And I'm all about better dialogue. I've seen dialogue already with the Blue Ribbon Committee, and they're, contributing to that.
Mm-hmm.
And the things I've seen seem to be working.
Mm-hmm.
What we already have in place, I haven't seen it not working, I guess. So.
Supervisor Sabatier.
So I was looking for it because I know I had read it. I just forgot exactly what page it was on. But on page 7 of the draft, under additional terms, so section 6, letter L, it says existing rights. The parties each retain all rights, responsibilities, and authorities provided for by law or the absence thereof, and nothing in this agreement extinguishes any such rights, responsibilities, or authorities. Keeps going. But to me, that states that this is about collaboration, this is about relationship, this is about discussions and open dialogue to best find the pathway to dealing with our lake. And let's just be real, our lake is huge, and our lake has some ailments that we need to deal with. We have climate change that we're dealing with. Our lake is kind of the canary in the coal mine of climate change, from being so shallow, so ancient, and so already high in nutrients because of all the volcanic soils and everything else that it's surrounded by, that we can't keep trying to do this alone. We haven't been doing this alone, but this kind of puts it that now we are not doing it alone in paper, and hopefully continues into the future. There's been good work by other groups, other government entities, and I think that this just kind of puts it in writing as to how we're going to communicate, how we're going to work together, and what our vision is. So when I read through this, and I read through the existing rights portion, because that was my first question as well, and it should be our first question, that this is about progress, not shifting rights or responsibilities towards others.
And I think my concerns are not, I'm all about working together. What I worry about is I guess I just don't want to jeopardize our constituents, our whole constituents' rights in any way.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah, so the way I see it, a lot of those concerns were covered. I was involved in this, and there was never discussions about the county giving up their management authority of Clear Lake. We've had that since the state delegated to us in the early 1970s. But all of the organizations, governments, agencies have and are going to continue to be doing their projects, whatever they may be, in the lake. So my thought on this the whole time was that, you know, having a pledge that all these organizations and agencies are going to collaborate and work together is only going to improve the work we can do on the lake. Because they're going to do it anyway. We're going to be doing our work. The tribes will be doing their work. Some 15 or 20 agencies of the natural resources are out there doing their work. And if we can have better communication and be on the same page, I just think it's going to improve what we can do for the lake. And this is a document that I believe is going to be a living document, and I'm sure there'll be proposals for changes and adjustments down the road. And certainly if it's not working, any organization can leave it.
Okay.
So that's the way I see it. Go ahead.
I did have the same concern that Supervisor Spatier had mentioned about Yellow County with their with the water. I have to thank you for bringing that up. And the only caution that I have literally seen was the tapping into monitoring wells, private wells. And therefore, I was wondering if any of this, I want to protect our people's rights. And I just don't know if there's any repercussions on this that could go in that direction where we're stepping on our people's rights, our residential rights.
I hear what you're saying. I think that that's probably can be better answered on the next item when you're sitting as the board of the Watershed Protection District. It is my understanding that this agreement gives no authority for anything outside of the authorities of each individual organization.
Okay, thank you.
So I would see it if, let's say, a proposed state regulation or law were to impact somebody's water use. I don't see this having any authority to regulate that, but the beneficial part of it could be that since we're collaborating, there can be more communication about how to address that.
Well, and then also, they would also have influence as far as kind of moving into those territories of because water, that's our most valuable commodity. That's our most valued resource. And I just want to protect our people. So and this group would also have a great deal of influence on influencing others within the state to change laws.
Supervisor Sabatier?
Yeah, just a couple of things. One, looking to see if there's, sorry, I've lost my words, approval from the board to make a request that once all of this has been signed, which will take some time to get all the signatures because there's a lot of different parties to the agreement here, to engage with Yolo County Flood Control to try and get them to be a part of this agreement, to just looking to see if there's occurrence on that. Okay, thank you. And then who specifically is it? Our Director of Water Resources or who will be representing Lake County? Will there be multiple people on this? Can you be more specific? Because I don't know that I saw that specifically detailed in there.
Sure. So on page 40 is the page, it's the contact and information page. Page 40 is for the County of Lake. The Board of that talks about your role as the Board of Supervisors. Areas of interest or influence on CHI recovery would be continued participation with tribes on the Clear Lake Hitch Task Force, continued commitment to consult with tribes on grants, projects, and programs in the Clear Lake watershed that may impact the Clear Lake Hitch. The current commitments and activities, County Tribal Liaison participation in the Clear Lake Hitch Task Force and the Summit Planning Committee, which I've done since its inception. Well, in my role here, since my beginning with the County of Lake, and those. And then if you turn the page 41 is the Watershed Protection Districts and their information. So it'll be Susan Parker would sign on your behalf for the County of Lake, and Director Upatier, which has the authority to sign for the Lake County Watershed Protection District.
Sorry, that didn't really answer my question because I don't see Susan going to the meetings.
No, but
It's just not her thing.
I can't
Yes,
sign
she
for
has
that.
signing power, yes, but I'm saying who's going to be involved in these discussions, in the co-management, things like that. That was my question.
Good question. Primarily myself, as I have been through the Clear Lake Hitch Task Force and the summit, and through your board's direction, this process. But for the Watershed Protection District, that would be Director Yapatier.
Okay, okay. Sorry, CAO Parker, that's.
Did you want to say something? Go ahead, County Council.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So on that more immediate issue, that's one of the recommendations for this item, as well as item number 6.4 for your board to authorize, as far as the signatory, the signing of the document to CAO Parker in 6.3, and for item 6.4, giving authority to Director Opadier to sign on behalf of Lake County Watershed Protection District, but the approval would be, if your board chooses to approve this agreement, would be at the discretion of your board. So what's before your board today under item 6.3 is as County of Lake. Item 6.4 would be sitting in as directors for Lake County Watershed Protection District. So with the discussion that's taking place, my office would just want to put it on record, get your board apprised to this. It's been mentioned already as far as the non-binding nature of this agreement. Just so your board is aware, it does add a potential layer on the enforceability of the agreement. By characterizing it as non-binding, the question there, or the issue there, would be, well, how can you enforce the provisions of an agreement that in and of itself is characterized as non-binding? Staff has relayed that concern to the state representatives who are coordinating this agreement amongst the several parties to that, but they have maintained their position that the agreement should be non-binding, which has its advantages and disadvantages. Because when you talk about enforcing certain provisions of the agreement, even under the collaborative provisions that's provided for in this agreement, the question always ends up with its non-binding nature. How can you enforce other parties to even come in and meet and confer and collaborate? So that may be a potential issue as it relates to this agreement. Also noting that as it relates to this agreement, parties are obligated to meet and confer, despite the non-binding provisions. That's also in this same agreement. And they're obligated, the parties, the ones who've signed on to this agreement, are obligated to meet and confer at least annually under Section 5 in good faith. So that's a meet and confer collaboration provision under this agreement. While the parties are allowed to withdraw, there's a withdrawal provision in this agreement. As far as the termination of the agreement is concerned, termination of the whole agreement is only, as a whole, would only be allowed on mutual consent of all of the parties, or if only one party remains in this agreement. So just wanted to get your board apprised of that for your board's consideration, because it's being presented to your board for approval and authorizing under item 6.3, authorizing the CAO to sign, should your board choose to do so.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions before I open it? Go ahead.
Just one more comment. If by chance you get a no answer from Yolo County Flood Control, I'd love to get an email to describe why.
Will do.
All right, go ahead, County Council.
I apologize, Chair. One more thing, because of, it's mainly amendments were proposed to this agreement, so it would be an approval as amended. I would like to add one more amendment to this, because I just recently spotted it on Section 6C, under the heading of participation in similar activities. That's on page 6. It references parties agreeing to follow Section 7N of the agreement. I think that should be changed to Section 6, because there is no Section 7 in the agreement.
Good catch.
Okay.
We would have found it eventually.
Right.
All right, anything else?
I would just say in the amendment, and I know that we did talk about it, but it does in highlight say County of Lake Watershed Protection District. I just want to make sure that it says Lake County Watershed Protection District, rather than stand with what's highlighted.
Yes.
I guess you're looking for action?
I know, I got to open to the public.
Sorry.
At this time, I'll go ahead and open it to the public. Sorry. Anybody in the room?
Roberta McIntyre, Hidden Valley Lake. I wasn't thinking I would be speaking to the issue, this particular issue, but I gotta tell you, from recent experience in Sonoma County, working with collaborators without a semi-formal agreement or MOU to say, hey, we're all gonna agree to work together, having, in the absence of that, getting folks to the table to work together collaboratively, especially if you're seeking multi-million-dollar grants and you're all trying to do basically the same thing, you're working in the same space. Having something like this that, while it's not legally binding, does encourage, almost demands that the parties involved get together and work collaboratively. And having that put upon them, it keeps them from saying, oh, somebody's doing this over here, somebody's doing this over there. I thought we were working together here. This is really cool. This is a good thing. I think it's going to do a lot to get the parties working together and get some money in the door by being able to collaborate and apply for grants collaboratively. It's a good thing. It's a force multiplier.
Thank you. Anybody else in the room?
Good morning, Sarah Ryan with the Big Valley Band of Poma Indians. I'm their environmental director. And I want to thank the Board of Supervisors for being a part of the co-management discussion over the last year or so that it's been being developed by the state. I think it's a huge step forward in collaboration and communication. I've worked for the tribe for 25 years, and so I've seen a lot of things change over time in terms of how we are working together. I also want to point out that as a shared resource with multiple jurisdictions that have various authorities, we do need to be talking and working together on things. Tribes, for example, can set water quality standards for Clear Lake. The county cannot do that. Only the state and tribes can do that. So we have an opportunity to make this water safe for all of the different uses that the tribes have and that the public has. And over the years, I think tribes have been able to show that they're committed to improving the lake through putting a lot of funding into it, monitoring, working on invasive species, cyanotoxins, and other things like that. So this really is an opportunity for all of us to, be supportive of our successes and happy about our successes, and we all know we need to do more on the lake. There's some things that are out of our control. We want to identify the things that we can work on. Blue Ribbon Committee is funding millions of dollars worth of projects, and we'll see if any of these pilots work that have been that are in play. And again, just thank you for your participation in this co-management agreement.
Thank you, Sarah. Anybody else in the room? Not seeing any, we'll go online. Guest, go ahead and identify yourself. You have 3 minutes. Are you there?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Angela Amaral. I'm going to jump around a little bit because I unfortunately didn't have enough time to really go through this like I wanted to. But a couple things I wanted to point out, and I have to agree with Supervisor Sabatier's comments earlier during public input to question and inquire, even if it's not always an easy discussion. And since this item is on the agenda twice, my comments, I guess, will be for both agenda items. It's sounding like AB 1284 encourages an agreement, but it is not a requirement. CNRA is required to work with tribes, but others are not. Perhaps let CNRA maintain their collaboration with the tribes as required and bring collective concerns to the county. Just thinking of too many cooks in the kitchen might create more bureaucracy. I have several concerns over this co-management agreement between government entities and non-government entities. This is in no way an issue with tribal involvement. I don't want that to be construed in that way. It's an issue of creating a co-management agreement between government and non-government entities that oversee the residents. My question is, would this agreement be okay if the co-management was between local government bodies and a private group such as the Sierra Club? Under the intent and purpose, it states challenges cannot be solved by any single government acting alone. Once again, tribes are not a government that oversees citizens outside of their respective tribes. My concerns are AB 52 and SB 18 already require consultation, yet many AB 52 requests go unanswered, especially at the Planning Commission level. There's a lot of hesitancy for tribes to engage with residents despite multiple requests for engagement. Executive Order N523 directed state to work with tribes. So why is a co-management agreement necessary? Going back to concerns brought up by county council, I believe those are valid. While it's not a legal binding contract, it contains a lot of legal language, including dispute resolution, sovereign immunity, amendments in writing, and how to leave the agreement. State and local government are subject to the California Public Record Act, but are non-governmental agencies bound by CPRA rules, and will these meetings be Brown Act compliant? Once again, I have to agree with Supervisor Sabatier and Supervisor Owen that the large missing piece in this is Yolo County. Since Yolo County retains the water rights to Clear Lake, why are they not being included in this co-management agreement? Are they being consulted on how their management affects Clear Lake as it currently stands? Between the Blue Ribbon Committee,
Miss Angela, that was your timer.
okay, I'm on my last spot.
Okay.
Between the Blue Ribbon Committee, the Clear Lake Hitch Task Force, the Hitch Recovery Plan, and other programs, this co-management seems unnecessary and a potential overreach. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else? No. So I'm going to go ahead and close public comment and bring it back to the board. Go ahead.
I just want to respond to the last public comment. I do agree that we have had a increase in attention to the lake, but I also don't think that that increase is necessarily has the longevity of what this document potentially offers. Eventually the Blue Ribbon Committee will run out of money. Eventually the Blue Ribbon Committee will be superseded by something else or pay attention to a different area. I don't know, but I just don't feel like it's a lifelong effort versus we should have a lifelong effort here in the county of Lake, and we should have as many partners as possible who care about it. I think that we do have the right partners. Maybe we have too many state departments in there, but our local partners are the most important partners, and they're in there. And from what I understood, because Yolo County Flood Control is deemed a special district, which it is, it's not deemed, that your attempt was to go after it and have that conversation with them after the initial signing, even though they are still a local government. So I'm okay with that process. I just wanted to, I think this is good. In fact, this is something that had we built the relationships that we currently have today, 20 years ago, we should have had this 20 years ago in order to try to escape some of the harms that we're seeing in our lake happening today. And so not doing it today, I think would be negligent, and doing it today can only benefit us in the future. So just wanted to respond to that last comment.
Thank you. Any further comments from board, or are we ready for action? Do you have something, County Council? No? Okay.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve, well, actually, do you want to give the motion?
Go ahead and walk us through it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the motion language would be to motion to approve the Clear Lake Watershed and Chi Memorandum of Understanding Co-Management Agreement and authorize CAO Parker to sign.
As amended.
As amended.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. What's that?
Sustain.
Abstain?
abstain.
Okay, so that will carry with 3 votes. Okay. Let's move on to 6.4, and we're going to change, and we'll be setting as the Board of Directors for the Watershed Protection District for this item. And A, presentation and discussion of draft co-management of the Clear Lake Watershed Global Agreement. B, provide feedback to staff on amending, and if no or minimal amendments, C, authorize Director Puan Apadier of the Lake County Water Resources Department to sign. And are you going to start out again,
Sure.
Terry?
So what was posted with, Terry Logston, Chief Climate Resiliency Officer and Tribal Liaison. What was posted with the agenda does not include the signature page or the information and contact page for the Big Valley Band of Pomo Indians. So I am sharing that today. You have hard copies. There's a few hard copies available. And there's some very minor edits that I made that are highlighted in yellow, where there was a global change that changed everything that said Lake County to County of Lake, and it is the Lake County Watershed Protection District. And so this co-management agreement, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Yapadier if you have any questions now that you're sitting as the board of the Watershed Protection District.
Okay, we've gone through it. Do we have any additional questions? I see this identical agreement that we just discussed.
A little awkward.
So I think we've been through that.
I have a whole new line of
Yeah.
questions.
Do you want to offer any brief comments on?
Yeah, so it's Pawan Upadhyay, Lake County Water Associate Director. So I would probably just want to make a comment about, which might not be very obvious from the previous discussion, was this is also like a way for the state to make some commitments towards the efforts which has been going on here. So it is not just the local agencies, tribes and other, but also having some kind of formal documentation from the state perspective so they can continue putting the resources towards the Lake County and for the Clear Lake, even if there is changes in the administration. So this will probably continue that efforts moving forward.
Thank you. If there's nothing from the board else, then I'll go ahead and open it to the public. Did I miss them? Oh. Anybody in the room? Not seeing anyone online? No. No? Okay. I'll close public comment and bring it back to the board.
I do have.
Go ahead.
I have a question. So I know we're doing a lot of projects this year we have test projects and we're monitoring them, correct? On what's going to work in our lake. So with how will that work? We're working together. Who's going to be taking the data and how will the public have access to that data on the projects themselves? Will it all be available to the public, all the results on all the different?
Ideally, I think that should be the goal for the Blue Ribbon Committee, but as far as the county project goes, we do upload our data to like a central portal, which is, we work with the state with that, and I think that's available for public to see at any time.
So that we've already put one treatment forward in Clear Lake Oaks, correct?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not on the Oaks, it was Upper Lake.
Upper Lake, okay. And so is the water being tested and all?
Yeah,
Okay.
right now that we are in the process of collecting that data.
Okay, you're still collecting data, and then does it go out on the web as that comes forward?
Yeah, it would be available for public to see. It would be on our website as well.
Okay,
Yeah.
so what about are the natives, our partners, doing also monitoring and testing?
For that project
Or for in the future with this, will that be, because it was something that one of them had mentioned, I think it was Angela had mentioned, will that data, the research that they do, the partnership, all that information be available to the public?
I think we have probably.
Sarah,
Ryan
can
here,
you
maybe
address? Can you address that?
Sarah Ryan, Big Valley Band of Pomo Indians. Yes, the tribe has actually been putting their data in public databases longer than the county has.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, much longer. So, however, the tribal data goes into a federal database, and it's called the Water Quality Exchange. If you go to a website called, I would Google How's My Waterway, EPA, and it will take you to a website where all of the federal data, or tribal data, USGS, any of the other federal agencies have been putting their data up into there for many decades, including Big Valley, or several decades.
Amazing.
Yeah, so you can go into there and look at, and ours goes in very regularly. The counties goes into a state database. The state database eventually makes it to the federal database, so a little bit of confusion on that. But yeah, Big Valley, and I believe the other tribes, whenever they collect data, we certainly put ours into a database, and also on Facebook and on our website.
Okay.
So, yeah, and we're willing to share. You know,
Okay,
if-
I'd like
if
to
asked.
share that information out
Yeah.
on my page.
Perfect, yeah. Let me know if
Thank
you need anything.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
Any other questions? And there was no public comment, so I think we're ready for action.
Can we get the motion again?
County Council?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the motion would be move to approve the Clear Lake Watershed and Chi Memorandum of Understanding Co-Management Agreement, and so motion to approve that document and authorize Director Pawan Upadhyay from the Lake County Water Resources Department to sign as amended.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Abstain.
Okay, so that'll carry three ayes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we're going to move on to our 10 a.m. item, which is consideration of a contract with the Lake County Resource Conservation District for hazard tree removal, and authorize the chair to sign. And we have our climate officer here. You're going to present this?
Yes, and the executive director for the Lake County Resource Conservation District, Julia Sullivan, is online. She could not make it here today. Thank you, Terry Logston, Chief Climate Resiliency Officer and Tribal Liaison. Before you today is a contract with the Lake County Resource Conservation District for hazard tree removal along county rights-of-way. You may recall that we declared a local state of emergency due to pervasive tree mortality in 2022 after decades of extreme drought and groundwater that led to widespread tree mortality across the county. We worked with the state through Cal OES and hired Tetra Tech, and they did a survey in a specific area of Lake County, and we have a request under the California Disaster Assistance Act. We received funding from Cal OES that was limited to hazard tree removal, but it has to be spent before March 1st, 2027. The Lake County RCD, which is, again, is a special district of the state of California, is considered a local government, has received a grant, a community wildfire defense grant, to do this type of work. And so several months ago, we met with the RCD, the Lake County Fire Chiefs Association representatives, and our Public Works Director, Lars Ewing, and Road Superintendent, Jim Hale, to discuss. And so I will let Director Sullivan Shaban explain a little bit more about their project.
Go ahead.
Terry, and hi, good morning. Good to see everyone. Sorry to be joining via Zoom instead of in person. But thanks for that overview, Terry. So as she mentioned, we received Forest Service funds, a community wildfire defense grant, which is a $7 million award total, about 1.5 of which is dedicated to hazard tree removal in Lake County. So we convened this coordination meeting earlier this year to make sure that we were aligning with our partners and other entities in the county that are also engaging in similar work or have similar funding. and learned that there might be some significant efficiencies that we could achieve that would be mutually beneficial for both the county and the RCD and allow us to really stretch the available funding that we have for hazard tree removal in Lake County. And of course, there's no shortage of work to be done on that front. So, independently of this county contract, we are in the process of issuing a request for qualifications and a request for proposals of qualified contractors to initiate this process of identifying trees for removal throughout the county, along county roads specifically. And then we'll be removing those hazard trees and disposing of them appropriately over the months and years to come. So at this meeting back in March, we discussed the possibility of kind of routing these funds through this program that we are already standing up as a way to really, again, stretch the implementation funding further. We recognize this work is expensive, and sadly, 1.5 million won't go as far as we want it to. And the same can be said for this sum from the county. So really, again, trying to maximize the impact we can have with this funding and getting things underway here in a couple weeks. So we think this is a natural alignment, a great way to stretch those funds and make sure that we're coordinating as effectively as possible between these two entities, the county and the RCD. We did, at this meeting back in March, identify preliminarily a set of roads that we agreed collectively should be priority for treatment. And that emerged through conversations, again, with Public Works, with Terry, with a couple of fire chiefs that were present at that meeting, and Chief Duncan of CAL FIRE as well. Two of those roads are located in the Cobb area. So we have Bottle Rock and Loch Lomond that we identified, and then there's several additional roads throughout the county that kind of met that initial criteria and parameters that we set together. So I will leave it at that just as a start. I'm happy to answer any questions or address any concerns that any of you may have.
Thank you. Vice Chair.
Yeah, I am glad that we're going to be spending this money. It's been a long and frustrating process for me because I started ringing the alarm bells in 2021, gathering data when we first started having our tree mortality crisis. And we're not in the same place we were back then because PG&E, the Hogback Ridge Crew, RCD, there's been a lot of projects and winter storms that have brought the trees down. But I'm a little frustrated that more roads in Cobb aren't in this because this funding came directly from many conversations that I had directly with Senator McGuire about this hot spot in the Cobb region. And I would like to see Harrington Flat in its entirety, Sulphur Creek and Gifford Springs added. Again, these are, there's not as many standing dead trees as there were, but there still are. Several, and they're dangerous, and they come down in storms, and they've impacted communities and they cannot leave. For example, on Gifford Springs, during winter storms a few years ago, we had a woman go into labor during a snowstorm and could not get out because the trees fell down. So given that this funding was, although not written down anywhere, was specifically for this hotspot area of tree mortality in the Cobb area, I really want to have these roads added. And I also want to ask Julia and Terry, so you're doing this in the right-of-way, but we know that a lot of the trees that are away from the right-of-way are tall enough to fall and impact the road. So are you getting rights of entries? Like, how is this being handled?
Yeah, I can take a first stab at that, Terry, and feel free to jump in. We are prioritizing the right-of-way, but certainly in instances like what you just mentioned, we'll make calls as necessary and reach out to individual private landowners and get rights of entry to make sure that we're being as comprehensive and as effective as possible. So again, starting with the right of way, but really looking beyond that to make sure that we're covering our bases and being thorough. And I do, just to address your previous point, Supervisor Pyska. So we're very happy to approach this county contract as a distinct set of funding it is from our CWDG award. And so happy to stay true to the conversations that led to that funding and the initial spirit of that funding and use this pot specifically for treatment in the Cobb area. And then we can use our CWDG funds for other priority roads that we've identified throughout Lake County. I do just want to mention that I think it's distinctly possible that between Bottle Rock and Loch Lomond alone, which together constitute, I think, more than 13 miles, that might soak up all of the county contract available. But we can definitely indicate that should funds remain after that treatment, Harrington Flat, Sulphur Creek, we'd be happy to look to those roads. And of course, are going to do our best to be as efficient as possible and treat as many areas as possible.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. And and I know that this funding isn't going to go as far as we need it to go. But the fact that we are continuing to ask Cal OES to fund this project, we have to keep these roads in where there's still problems. So if we don't add them in, then it looks like we don't have hazardous trees in these areas.
Okay, understood.
And I really do appreciate the coordinating between the two areas of funding. I think this is going to build in a lot of efficiencies, and I am really happy to finally see trees getting cut down, because we as the county have not cut down a single tree in 5 years.
Supervisor Sabatier?
Couple of things. I'll start with the easy one. We're doing reports on this in October and February, and just thought I opened the wrong contract. It's weird to do it, number one, in February when the contract goes all the way through March.
March 1st.
But still, like, I think April would probably be a better time to do it so that you can finalize all the paperwork, finalize all the reports, rather than doing it in February. That makes no sense to me. But we spend way too much time as a board doing presentations. Could we just do one in the end rather than midway? As long as trees are getting cut, like, I don't think we need a presentation midway. Just trying to relieve us from some of the stuff that we're doing. So I see that there's supposed to be 2 reports, October and February. The contract is through March, so can we just do it, make it after that? Then it says it's very vague on where the biomass would go. Is there any concept of where it will go? I know there's been efforts to try and provide some of those places. Some of those places have been mostly temporary rather than permanent. Are these intended to be in county, or is it intended to be taken out of county, or is that not solid at this moment in time as far as where, if the private property owner says you can take it, because there's a place in there where the private property owner can say, I want to keep the wood. Do we have a concept of where that will go at this moment in time? Because that's a whole lot of trees, $900,000 worth of trees being cut down. So just wanted to see if there was something.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think we probably intentionally left that a little bit vague because it will vary on a case-by-case basis. I think, you know, the RCD has a number of locations that we've identified and that we regularly bring biomass to, or that our contractors do through our defensible space work, for example. So Quackenbush is one of those locations. Depending on landowner interests and desires, and depending on whether trees exhibit signs of mob, for example, that will determine whether it's appropriate to leave something on site or take it off for disposal. So that will really vary on a case-by-case basis, but we know what our options are and have good systems in place for getting things where they need to go. As far as reporting, I will defer to you all as far as when you want updates. I'm happy to give you as many or as few as you want. I think, you know, realistically, with the March 1 deadline, we better be really close to being done with this work in February. So that presentation would be a fairly comprehensive one, I think. And then the October checkpoint might just be an interesting opportunity we will have contractors onboarded and likely getting this work underway by then. We will. And so if you wanted that kind of early touch point just to see how things were progressing, I'd be happy to share that update, but defer to you all as far as what you feel like you want and need.
I'd be good with an email update and then a final to the board, all the work that was done. As far as the specific roads, I think that we need to be careful in how we, I'm not a fan of competing with one another. $1 million is for Lake County. 70% of Lake County has burned, not one specific area. And so I think that we should have every road that is an evacuation road that needs help should be on the list, not picking and choosing who and why. And then it should be on number of residents, number of vehicles that are traveling on those roads, danger of the road based on the tree and the vegetation there. So I don't think we should be picking and choosing roads. I think it needs to be more expertly and methodically done. But I don't want to spotlight one specific area, because in the near past, outside of that specific area is where we've seen a lot more fires. We had one major fire out there, a few small ones, but in other areas, there's been a lot more fires as well. So every area is susceptible to the same issue. So I just think we need to look at it from a county perspective, not a specific geographical location. So that's, I don't think we should highlight any specific roads. I think we need to have all of our evacuation routes with potentially a score of tree danger and a number of folks that are impacted if a tree does come down.
Yes.
Supervisor Owen?
Yeah, I absolutely thank you, Supervisor Sabatier, for mentioning that. To be honest, it's a little offensive to prioritize districts rather than people. And I would like, I know that District 3 has many, many needs. There's been a number of fires in that area, and there's probably some potential dangers. Anderson Springs is one that was heavily hit, and I know that needs to be added to the list as well. I didn't see it. I do want to say thank you for adding Western Mine and Socrates Mine to those areas. But like I said, Anderson Springs has numerous people, one way in and one way out. Let me see. How far off the road do the clearings go? Like is it 80 feet? Is it 50 feet? 100 feet? What is this good for?
That's a great question. Because a lot of the rights-of-way in the county right-of-way is prescriptive, which means, as I understand it, we don't really have it. So it's just a general 3 feet from the fog line if there's a fog line, but.
Okay, so that's all you're going? You're not going, I mean, I think that I just want to make sure if trees fall.
These are really good questions. In our back how many years ago now has that been? A couple of years ago, under our request for CDAA, which Supervisor Pyska mentioned, this funding was for that one specific area, which is Cobb on the top down through Jerusalem Valley. It doesn't include Hidden Valley Lake. It does area-wise because Hidden Valley Lake has its own community service district, and up and around that particular area. The application that we sent to Cal OES was 200 foot from the center line.
Okay.
But they will not accept that. Even though the trees in that particular area
might be that tall.
they are.
That's what I was looking for, is that if something's standing and it could still impact the roads.
Yes.
That's exactly what I was looking for.
And unfortunately, we're not going to get funding for that.
Okay. So I wish we could.
Yes.
The prioritizing roads, I really think we need to put people before districts. I absolutely believe that. And I want to, again, thank you for adding some of our area, but I think we need to look at the safety aspects first. So that's where I'm going to go.
Vice Chair?
Yeah, so, I mean, the polygon for this funding went from Red Hills all the way down, that's why Western Mine is there, and all through the Cobb area, because that is where we did all the research, where all these standing trees, thousands of them were standing, and some of them are still standing, and these roads are evacuation roads. And every time that we get a storm, including this winter, all the trees fall down, and people get stuck, and there are medical emergencies. So this is serious, and and again, the funding is not going to cover these other roads, but we have to keep them in mind going forward. And that's why I'm going to insist that these roads get put in.
Did you have another comment, Supervisor?
I did. What do you, I don't understand where you're saying it will not cover other roads. What other roads?
Well, if we add in these other roads where every single time we have storms, trees come down, Harrington Flat, Gifford Springs, the other roads have been, and Sulphur Creek, those are the roads, 3 roads that are in the hot spot where tree mortality happened, where we had the bark beetles and the.
So what roads are
but
not
I'm
covered?
still talking. So this is where the bark beetle and the Doug fir started dying in mass. And there's still hundreds of thousands standing, but along the roads, a lot of them have fallen. So I just want those 3 added in the contract in case there's money left over, which there won't be, because once they do Bottle Rock and Loch Lomond Road, that should be expended. But because we're continuing to push Cal OES on year 6 to help us fund getting the rest of these trees taken down, we have to keep the focus on this polygon area. And that's why Western Mine is there, because these are the areas of the hot spots where the trees were dying. And I went up in the helicopters several times. We had CAL FIRE experts, we had entomologists, we had Mike Jones. We gathered all the data for many years, and this is where the hot spot is. So I'm glad that the roads that are listed, but I want these roads in there so that we can continue to look for more funding.
But what you're saying is if we add Anderson Springs, where there's a multitude of people.
Well, wait a minute. Are there standing trees that were killed from bark beetle and
Not fire.
After the fire,
Can't
the
be
county went through and cleared the right-of-way out of the trees after the fire. So Anderson Springs doesn't have this issue. Western Mine does, because that slope of Mount St. Helena was a major hotspot for the bark beetles in the drought. And that's why there's all those conifers that are really dangerous. When they fall, they could be 3 feet in diameter, and they fall all over the place. After winter storms, I've driven, and there's hundreds of trees down, and people can't leave their homes. And I've been out there with the fire chiefs. I've been there during the storms. This is a serious issue. So I just want the roads kept in there for consideration, because people cannot leave their homes in these storm situations. It's not just a fire issue.
And just to clarify, what the Cal OES request under CDAA, the California Disaster Assistance Act, goes back to 2015 in the state of California in their drought emergency. And so what we worked on in the survey that Tetra Tech did of hundreds of properties, the focus was on drought killed trees exacerbated by bark beetles, because bark beetles are opportunistic. Even though these are native bark beetles impacting the pine trees throughout the county, but really bad around the Cobb area. And so after the Valley Fire, there was funding for wildfire killed trees. I don't think the CWDG funding has that limitation. Yeah, they can.
It's very flexible.
Yeah, it's just any standing dead tree. But this other funding may have those limitations.
May.
Because it was part of the project.
But you don't know that it does.
Well, we applied for this funding that had to be tied to the drought.
Right.
And then we never heard back from Cal OES. So Senator McGuire helped us get this $1 million to kickstart the project so that we could start removing trees. And the reason why we have like almost $900,000 is because that little plus $100,000 was used to survey these specific trees that were killed by the drought and the beetles.
Yes.
The conifers.
Right.
It cannot help. It could not help with the mob. It had to be specific with the conifers.
Supervisor Owen, did you have?
No.
Okay. So just so I'm clear, we've got these roads that are listed in the staff report. Your request on those other roads to have them basically entered in there so that they're on the record. If we don't have money to do them, we can say later, hey, we have these other roads that still didn't get done.
Right, because they're in the epicenter of the tree mortality emergency, which we still have listed on our list of emergencies, even though the state has now gotten rid of it.
Okay. Supervisor Sabatier?
I mean, part of that doesn't make any sense to me. This is a contract for money funded to do a service, and if we put more than what the contract can do, that helps us with the state. That's just weird to me. The contract should cover what the contract is expecting to do. But I just want to give a positive, because we're arguing here. I know that I was curious because, yes, Lake County RCD is amazing at what they do, but we directly decided to work with them without going outside and looking for anything. And the one thing that really stopped me in my tracks 100% is thank you for having a 3% to 4% administrative fee that goes to RCD. The rest goes directly to the services of taking those trees down. And that 3% is lower than anything I've ever seen on a contract. And so I just want to highlight that and say thank you. We did not go out to bid for this. We directly worked with RCD, but they are absolutely underbidding anything that I would ever anticipate we see, because that administrative fee is as low as it gets. So I just wanted to highlight that part of the contract. It was greatly appreciated, and I just want to end on a positive note.
Okay, and I don't think we've opened to the public yet. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, Board. I think this is important that we get these trees cut down, but I'm just listening to this conversation, and one of the things I would like to caution the Board is what's called confirmation bias, which is this is the area we studied, so this must be the most important area, and the areas that weren't studied apparently aren't as important. And I think we're hearing that a little bit. I also, listening to the dialogue back and forth, apparently historically there was conversations with leaders in the state as to why money was allocated, but if I understand correctly, whatever the obligations are written in this language today is what's binding, not what somebody had a conversation with somebody years ago about this, that, or the other. So I think if the latitude that's allowed by the current agreement allows for trees to be cut in different areas, why not? And then the other thing, and I think Supervisor Sabate pointed out, it should be more objective. Take a look at your evacuation routes. If the areas in District 5 meet the criteria and bubble up to the top of the list because they truly do have the most need, then great. But to fight over this street and that street, I think is, well, it's embarrassing and it's not productive. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the room?
Roberta McIntyre, resident of Hidden Valley Lake. This is the item I wanted to speak to. Hi, Julia. I was hoping you'd be here in person so we could get caught up, but maybe another time. As a person with a lot of experience in the space, a lot of roadside hazard reduction work in my history, a couple things I want to talk about so that the board's aware. There's categorical exemption with CEQA for the work involved in this project, as I understand it. You can go up to 30 feet from roadway and get a categorical exemption for CEQA. You can also go up to 100 feet if you have the fire department's support in going to that extra distance. I get in terms of prioritizing where the work should be done, I totally agree with Supervisor Pyska in terms of where this project, where it grew out of, in terms of where the focus was meant to be. But a couple things to point out. March is probably the end point for the project because March is the beginning of bird nesting season. So the work needs to happen before then. So that's something in terms of prioritizing. The other thing to keep in mind with prioritizing where the work gets done is property owner permission. So if you're working along the easement, you're not going to get a whole lot of work done. In fact, if you just stay within the easement, you probably won't be able to spend down the money you have available to get work done. So you got to beat the bushes and get some property owner permissions to go farther. So I feel like property owner permissions is probably going to drive a lot of where this work gets done, where you get property owner permissions, regardless of everything else that you've talked about. And then I will say that I was at the South Lake County Fire Fire Safe Council last week, and they're really excited about the work being done here, and I think they're expecting that a lot of this work happens in their footprint, which would include those areas mentioned by Supervisor Pyska. So again, a lot of experience here. I really like the project. I think it's headed in the right direction, but be aware of, where the work gets done will be driven by a lot of factors, not just main circulatories or not just easements, etc. You'll find that you'll probably end up with a patchwork of work done. It'll still be good work done, but it'll be where you have property owner permissions, where you get the most bang for the buck. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else in the room? Not seeing any. Do we have online? We do. We have Sterling online. Sterling, go ahead.
Yes, listening to the presentation, I think this is a great thing for the county. I understand that Jessica Pyska start the research and all that, but also that is old data that she's bringing up. When you just drive up to Lakeport on Highway 29 before the Kitts Corner, if you look off to the left side, it's a private property, but there is numerous dead standing trees, numerous. If a fire was to break through there, and those are all dead standing because of the beetles, that would take out and shut off Highway 29. So my question to you guys is, are we prioritizing the major highways coming in and out of our county? I understand that Harrington Flats, it's one way in, one way out. Spring Valley's the same exact way. We've actually had our road completely washed out before. We don't have an extra exit in and out. We have trees that overlap our roads that have been fallen, and residents themselves had to cut themselves out. I think just prioritizing just COG, it might be a very negligent thing for the county, especially going into fire season. I believe we should spread this money throughout the whole entire county. Yes, back when they did the study was back in 2000, maybe 15, 2017. That's 10 years ago. We need to reevaluate the whole entire county and start making it protected, not in just one area, just one area's roads, one area's trees. It's very selfish and very tone deaf to the rest of the community members in this county. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else online?
No, I'm happy to respond.
Yeah, I'll close
go ahead,
public
Jessica.
comment. I'll close public comment and bring it back to the board.
Sure.
Go ahead, Vice Chair.
Can I share the map?
Sure, yes, that would be great. Pull the map up. And I've been working with Caltrans for the last several years because Caltrans is in charge of the right-of-ways along the highways. And so when we work together, we coordinate our projects, which is why we had PG&E working with Caltrans and us, the county and CAL FIRE, to try and work within our lanes to clear as many trees. So that group of standing dead trees along Highway 29 is a really dangerous situation. It is on private property, and Caltrans has done a lot of the work in the right-of-way. So you're right, but that's the state's responsibility. And the data that I'm talking about is not 10 years old. It's
2024.
It's from, yeah, we started collecting data in 2022 and mapping it all through 2024. So this is the polygon. This is the area that I'm talking about. These are the hot spots where the trees have been identified. I mean, these are areas in the big tall pines where we have standing dead trees, and it's a danger. It is a real danger to people when they can't get out. Right. I actually got a call from a constituent who's a logger on Harrington Flat in a series of storms. I think this winter, it was in March or something. He had to spend the entire day cutting out all of his neighbors because they couldn't leave during the storm.
Right. And this map that I'm showing is part of, this is, it's a still active request for funding for assistance under the California Disaster Assistance Act. Myself and Deputy CAO, I'm sorry, I can't remember your exact title, Matthew. Matthew Rothstein, we're in conversation with Cal OES today to try to get this updated. And so this was the area that was surveyed. The funding that we got from Senator McGuire was for hazard tree removal, although, you know, nuance, it doesn't say that it's for bark beetle killed, it's standing dead trees. we want to honor that because that's why we got the funding.
Yep, so all I'm asking is for 3 roads to be added to this work. They're in the polygon. This is where we did the surveying. That's what the funding was for. So I will make the motion.
Supervisor Owen wants to
I
make-
would just like to add Anderson Springs to it too then, if possible, because that they are trapped where many of these roads you can get out on, they cannot there, and you had just now stated that it does not state that it has to be Beetle. That might have been the thought, but it's not stated in the, so I would like to see those people protected.
Yep, I'm good with that.
All right.
Okay.
A couple more questions before. One is to Ms. Sullivan. The whole concept of the setback is, at what point is it a gift of public funds to do work on private property to take down a tree? We've heard from a public comment, potentially up to 100 feet. Do you have the concept of what, I mean, we asked for 200, that got denied. I just want a better understanding from my perspective as a decision maker on this contract. Do you have a concept of what is the limitation before it does become a gift of public funds? Because property owners should be responsible for the trees on their property, including if they have impact on the roadway. Unfortunately, we all seem to wait and wait and wait until the impact occurs, and then it comes to the community having to do the cleanup itself because the roadway is so important to keep open. So if you can provide any, what you've learned thus far and what your plan might be as far as how you engage with that limitation.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I guess just to be fully transparent, I don't know yet exactly what that threshold is, and my sense is that it will kind of vary on a case by case basis. I should mention that with our CWDG funds, we're working with Laco Associates, which is a great consulting firm, and they have worked with the Mendocino RCD successfully over many, many years, who ran a very ambitious hazard tree removal program in Mendocino County and was constantly kind of navigating this trade-off between county right-of-way and private property ownership and engaging in that dance a little bit. So we have a wealth of knowledge we're drawing on, both in our RCD partner over in Mendocino and in the consultants that we're working with on this project. But I don't know necessarily how to answer that question in this moment.
Okay. If it's
I will say that sorry.
I was just going to say, if it's possible to add that in your final presentation to us at the end to share with us maybe what the furthest distance from the road was or the average distance, just to get an understanding of how it was used. But it is a complicated process for that.
Sure. Yeah, happy to do that.
Okay. And then my other one, I'm looking at the map, and I mean, I guess it makes sense and it doesn't make sense that we're looking at this map, at Spring Valley Road is on the list of roads. That's not on the map that you're showing us. And then on the map, I know I've experienced going through like Spruce Grove Road, there are some dead trees on that area. There are in that map. So to me, it's not about the individual roads. It's what's our scoring mechanism to use this funding to best get the outcome we're looking for. And again, if it happens to be roads that I want, great. If it's the roads that I don't want, great, because at least it's a neutral, methodical perspective on how to best utilize this. And that is my preference on how to do it. It's not in the contract. As far as that goes, there's no specific roads to the contract. The only roads that were listed were on the memo. So I just, to me, leave the contract alone, but I'm asking for a methodical approach to ensuring that we are doing this the correct way, similarly to how we should be doing our roads and rebuilding our roads.
I concur with that. I think that's really important.
Well,
Go ahead, Vice Chair.
I mean, we could take the roads out and just say, focus on the area within the polygon and then prioritize evacuation routes.
Well, when we met, we did prioritize evacuation routes with the Lake County Fire Chiefs Association. That's how these were listed.
And I'll just add, sorry.
Go ahead.
Just add that at that meeting, we the factors that we took into consideration in identifying this preliminary list of roads were critical evacuation routes, and then also population centers and kind of levels of traffic. And so we had that perspective both from the Public Works Department and then also fire chiefs. And yeah, so that was definitely baked into kind of this initial list that we came up with, certainly.
I thought the roads were listed in the contract.
I believe they are.
Yeah, I think they are. And as far as the reporting goes, I'm fine with the final report coming back next spring because I'm pretty sure that we'll be getting ongoing updates from the Fire Safe Council or in the Fire Safe Council and the Risk Reduction Authority. So that's good for me. And then a final update next spring.
Sure.
But if we want to take out the language of the roads in the contract and just put in for that funding pot, prioritizing what was in the polygon, I'm fine with that.
And that would be on page 3 of 12 under section 1.2 is where the roads are listed.
And any other thoughts from?
3 of 12.
4
of 13.
Oh. Well, not on my version.
I don't have a problem with doing it that way either, with taking the roads out if the board's good with that.
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay.
But then do we need the language for
What language are you replacing with if we take the specific roads out?
And at the same time, Spring Valley Road is on there again, and it's not on the polygon, and I think that's an important road as well. And we've been getting continuous comments about a one-way in, one-way out.
Yeah.
So I guess without being awkward and rude, the polygon's not exactly correct,
well, no, because
or it's incomplete.
There's two pots of funding. The CWDG funding can work on MOB, can go anywhere. But the funding, the almost $900,000 from McGuire, that was specifically for the polygon. So that's what I'm talking about, is I want to make sure that we're not missing the work that the funding was intended for the $900,000. And then the other pot of funding can be anywhere in the county, and can be outside the polygon.
So these priority areas, as well as other evacuation roads requiring tree mortality, that way it allows the addition of things like Spring Valley Road in case that it's available.
Well, no, that's going to happen under.
I know, but it just, again, it doesn't make sense to
We're
have.
putting two pots of funding together, and that's what's complicated.
Yeah, and the contract is only for one pot.
So why is Spring Valley on there in the first
Right.
place, I guess, is my question. It
It
just
just-
confuses everything as to, like, at one point, we needed to have roads because it would have an issue with the state. Now we're taking off the roads, and it's fine. I'd say just take off the roads and say the priority areas and leave it at that, and we do need to have a way to prioritize what we're doing.
How about these priority areas align with the 2022 CDAA
Affected
request?
by tree mortality.
Right.
Supervisor Owen?
I think something was said earlier about by the time we get done with Bottle Rock and
Loch Lomond Road.
Loch Lomond Road, there's not going to be any funding left. And that's disturbing that we're starting there and that there won't be any funding left. Both of those roads go all the way through, and there's other connectors. Something like Anderson Springs, you are stuck, and in Spring Valley as well. One way in, one way out. There's no other way in or out. And I think that needs to be recognized, first of all, that when there's only one way in and only one way out, we have to protect those people. That's our job. And I think that how far the funding goes will be dictated by the distance off from the road that we can clear. So if it's 50 feet off the road, for instance, we're gonna get much further than if we're going 100 feet off the road, and we have to worry about the gift of public funds. I know that my place burned, and I had a whole orchard I had to take out on my own dollar. So I know that's also true, and that's something I didn't really think of till Supervisor Sabatier had mentioned. So this is a good thing either way. What we're fighting over is where the money's going to get spent and basically who's most important. We need to take care of our citizens and make sure that they can escape during disasters. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, so again, we have two pots of funding, so there is a lot that we can cover. I think Roberta mentioned the right of entries is the biggest holdup. So if we try and, for example, do Bottle Rock Road, but we have trees on private property where the owner is non-responsive, we can't cut those trees down and those trees stay. So you've got to go to where the rights of entries are granted, and that's the work that clerk does all the time. And it's really important to have that flexibility. So let's keep the roads out. Let's talk, I think there was a little bit of language that was exchanged so that we can, the funding from Senator McGuire can address the polygon of the high tree mortality, and the CWDG can focus on the other areas of the county that could have flexibility to include mob and all the other areas that were identified by the fire chiefs.
Supervisor Owen and then Sabatier.
Oh, no, go ahead.
And just to go back to the wording and looking at county council, as well as Ms. Logsdon, to see if there's a concurrence. The priority areas severely impacted by tree mortality. Would that be enough to make it vague?
For the CDAA application?
I can look at the language.
As identified in the CDAA application. I'm okay with that. If that's the funding that we're using, then it makes sense that it be applied in such a way. But I think that our job is not to pick and choose roads. Our job is to say, go out and conquer and do the best that we can with the money that we have to do the best impact.
Right.
That's it.
The nice part about the area that is part of phase, as it's called, phase 1 in the CDAA request is the Tetra Tech has rights of entries and has the contact information for a lot of property owners, which will make it a little bit easier. And they were also the contractor, I think, for Cal OES after the Valley Fire. So again, and there's a local contact in that area, which, because right of entries are onerous to get a lot of times.
Yep.
All right, County Council, did you want to comment on any of that?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So it sounds like there's a revised language that's being proposed here, so that if your board chooses to approve this contract, it would be approved as amended. Would like to note under 1.2, under that same bullet point, the preceding statements there did expressly state that the selected arborists will be deployed to survey priority areas and identify trees for removal in the right-of-way along critical evacuation routes. Priority areas were developed in partnership. It recognizes those, you could call them recital-type language, but it does acknowledge or obligate the arborists to be deployed to survey priority areas and identify trees for removal. So if your board is considering removing the last sentence of that bullet point that starts with these priority areas, it sounds like the language would be, for approval of the contract as amended, would be these priority areas are based on severely impacted areas, areas severely impacted by tree mortality as identified in the CDAA application. So that's the proposed amendment for your board's consideration.
Okay. Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the contract with the Lake County Resource Conservation District for hazard tree removal in the amount of $893,950.81 and as amended, and approve the contract as amended and authorize the chair to sign.
And just to clarify, 18 cents?
Yes.
And 18 cents, sorry, I was in the middle of 18 cents.
Okay, we have a motion
Second.
and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, that carries 4-0. And that concludes that item. At this time, we're going to go into close. Go ahead and comment.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I just recommend that you read 8.1. You don't need to read the rest because we don't have.
Okay, okay. So we're going to go into our 1045 8.1 closed session item. This is a conference with legal counsel, existing litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9 D1, Radislav versus Lake County and others. And we'll have a partial shutdown. Sam, how many minutes for that? 5? So we'll be in a 5-minute recess until that happens.
Oh, Mireille